sound intensity and the FNAF series. Let's see. Let's go.
A fair warning. This video regards a horror game, and it will feature some creepy sounds. It will not contain any jump scares, though, I promise.
Yeah.
This is best experienced through headphones.
I love FNAF. Ooh, Jesus Christ.
Hello, and welcome.
Oh, scream time.
This educational video is designed to show you how a horror game and its soundscape can intensify each other. Any other effects this video imparts are beyond the liability of Fazbear Entertainment. Now you may be wondering, what is sound intensity? How does it work? How can it keep me safe from any malfunctioning equipment in my business establishment? Rest assured, the Five Nights at Freddy's series can answer the first two questions. Due to budgetary considerations, and certainly not due to supernatural threats, this video will only be covering FNAF 2, 3, 4, Sister Location, and Pizzeria Simulator. But it should be noted that sound intensity occurs in all horror games. In fact, it occurs everywhere. There is no escape from it. And without further ado, let's hand it off to our guide, Scruffy, who needs to deliver a concise review of sound intensity in the aforementioned games, if they wish to ward off the animatronics approaching the studio.
Wait, what?
Wasn't
Remember to keep your eyes and ears peeled, and from all of us at Fazbear Entertainment, good luck.
Approaching the studio? Okay.
Bro's traumatized.
I'm Scruffy, and today we gotta get right into it. Sound intensity. It's a very subjective concept about how much tension a sound raises. It's not as quantifiable as sound volume, nor even as agreed upon as sound velocity, which is the rough amount of force with which something is activated to create a sound. Though, generally speaking, louder, more forceful sounds are more likely to be intense. But there are also cases where softer sounds can be intense. For instance, someone yelling into a pillow. It's also intense, perhaps because the sound raises questions. Where's that yelling coming from? Who's yelling? Why is it muffled? Or sounds can become intense by association, which means each person can find different sounds intense. But there are sometimes popular sounds like... yeah, like that. That a great deal of people have come to associate with rising tension for a sudden jump.
Yeah.
And it's precisely this sort of stress that can be exploited.
Is it? I find it interesting that back like sounds like innocent, like fun sounds back in the day, like that that jukebox, like that how I don't know what that song is, but those sounds and like those like innocent songs back in like the 1980s or something, 1990s, are like considered creepy nowadays. I don't know why. It maybe because game use it a lot. Yeah, Jack in the Box. Yeah, Jack in the Box. Maybe game use it a lot, and it interpretates like, you know, the creepy vibes or something. But like, it's kind of interesting.
Exploited in a horror game to make the player feel more uneasy. So let me share some examples that this handful of FNAF games do well. These aren't exclusive examples. They're done well in other horror games that I'll want to talk about later. And there's no story spoilers here, but it'd be good to know the gist of gameplay experience as we go through each game. So, let's begin with FNAF 2, Unknown Drones. Sounds are easily intense when we don't know what their source is, whether we can't locate the sound or we haven't heard that kind of sound before. FNAF 2 gets pretty intense already just through pure gameplay.
The name of the song is
but in the slower moments of the game where you have little to no control, a slew of untraceable sounds intensify the experience. If any animatronics are in your office primed to attack you, you get this TV static in your ears. Where is that coming from?
Oh, that sounds so satisfying.
If the puppet's music box isn't kept wound, and it escapes and is set to attack you, you literally hear the Jack in the Box jingle anywhere you look. How is it doing that? You can even confirm the location of one animatronic,
Jesus Christ, I thought I was gonna
by
get
the radio static it's constantly emitting. Sure, but why does it have to make such a garbled, incongruous sound? And then, personally, the creepiest for me are these interactive cutscenes between the nights of gameplay, where you are inexplicably given the perspective of Freddy Fazbear on stage with Bonnie and Chica. Visually, not much is going on, but once we add the audio...
Oh, yeah, it is. The other thing that makes this scene a bit more creepy is the lack of movement. You're moving so slow, and you can't do anything else but move slowly left and right. So if something jump scared you, you really can't do anything but just take it. That for me, that makes it more scary. The scene more scary.
I don't know what's making that collection of sounds. I don't know where they're coming from. I don't know whether they're real or hallucinatory. While I'm playing, my guess is as good as yours. That is effective sound intensity. Now, a related case of unknown sound is when we do recognize the sound, but it's indicating something that we haven't or can't immediately confirm. This is why alarms are intense. When we hear an alarm before confirming that time has passed. When we hear an alarm before we know that there's smoke in a room, or that a car has been jacked, or that a message is so important that all televisions need to broadcast it simultaneously.
When the voice
Alarms
starts to
earn their intensity by association, which is why this alarm becomes intense in FNAF 2 initially.
Ding, ding,
It indicates that an
ding.
animatronic is in the vents, and you'd probably hear it before you confirm it. Yep, there they are. We need to move on. FNAF 3. Context is everything.
Yep.
So this sequel generally scales things back from FNAF 2. You're now only dealing with one real animatronic instead of at least 10. And though the sound design follows in the footsteps of FNAF 2, I'd argue the intensity is a bit scaled back as well. You have some alarm sounds that definitely raise questions the first time you hear them, and there's another cool between-night interactive cutscene where you explore an Atari-esque rendering of a
I haven't played
pizzeria,
FNAF 3
once again
before.
playing as Freddy and the gang, but with more incongruous audio of thunder and strange, quiet rustling. But again, I'd argue it's not as immediately intense. This game's a little more reserved about creating auditory stress. And there's an interesting shared sound effect between it and FNAF 2. This is actually an example of de-intensifying a sound. So, back in FNAF 2, we have one animatronic, Balloon Boy, who will eventually try and get into your office to sap your flashlight power. Pretty sure we're safe for right now, but when he does move, it comes with little utterances like these.
Hello? Hi.
And that's really off-putting initially. This human voice is suddenly coming from somewhere. That's intense enough.
Noodle.
Yet, go over to FNAF 3, and now these Balloon Boy sounds are actually in your toolset to help you. You can play these sounds in a specific room, and the animatronic you're warding off, Springtrap, will get coaxed to go there, thinking there's someone in there. It's one way to keep Springtrap away from your office. And by all means, this was just a game dev decision. It's easier to reuse sounds from a previous title. But by recontextualizing them, these sounds are no longer intense. They are positive feedback for your actions, and we now know exactly where this sound is coming from and why. Now it would be more intense not to hear them when you press this button. Isn't it funny how it works like that?
Oh yeah.
Dear. While I reboot this, let's move on to FNAF 4. Food tastes stronger when you're hungry. Strange subtitle, I know, but in the same way that taste is intensified when we perceive a lack of food, hearing gets intensified when we perceive a lack of sound. FNAF 4 takes place in a child's bedroom at night, and while it's never silent in there, it is remarkably quieter than the previous games in the series.
That's why everyone says that's why everyone says the quiet is very loud in the room or something like that.
There's a fan in this room, but unlike the previous games, it isn't running, and you have some low, ominous droning, some grandfather clock chimes in the distance,
I hate that
and the sound
grandfather
you're
clock
told
at
to
night,
listen
man.
for. Breathing. Yes, if you hear breathing when you check a door, you are to close it to stop the animatronic from attacking you right there. But breathing is quiet.
Yes.
The breathing that indicates an animatronic is inches away rises only a little above the ambient noise of the room. And so, in a playthrough of FNAF 4, you have to parse sounds very granularly. Your ear is searching for small differences in volume, which makes any difference in volume become more intense.
Okay.
And might I add, that's only when you're checking the doors. In other parts of the room, there are different non-audio mechanisms for warding off animatronics. Not to mention, this setting has some of the lowest light so far in the series, so you clamor for visual information as well. In my previous video about Five Nights at Freddy's...
Wait, I haven't played FNAF 4 yet, but when you go up to the door and then they're like, let's say I go to the left door and Bonnie is there. Do I instantly hear the breathing? Do I have to wait like 3 or 4 seconds? Because if I have to wait 3 or 4 seconds, that is like, that's me losing time, like actual valuable time to check like Freddy in the back, Foxy in the front, or something like that.
Freddy's, I refer to this as absence of information. When the player knows that something's being withheld from them. But it's not exactly withheld information, it's just...
No breathing, then just like... But the thing is, I don't... Like, how long should I wait until I confirm, like, okay, Bonnie isn't here? You know? Like, how long do I have to wait to hear him breathing? Like, how... Like, if I look at the door and I hear... then I know he's there. Or do I have to wait, like, 2 or 3 seconds? And then he goes... Breathing is lower, just hold the door. If it's like low volume, hold it 10 seconds. Damn!
Faint information that takes focus to absorb and corroborate into a plan. And with so many tasks to juggle, focusing on minuscule sounds and details is intense. Stressful even. Oh, I heard that.
Yeah.
We should move along. To FNAF sister location.
I have never played this game.
Narrative dissonance. First of all, this game is a smorgasbord of everything we've talked about so far. You have weird, unknown sounds all over the place. You have some sounds that would be intense, except that they're given into your control, and thus you miss them when they aren't present. And you have one environment, the Ballora Gallery, in which you must traverse a pitch-black room while listening out for a quiet ballerina music box.
I've seen Markiplier play this. I don't want to play it. It's so much information.
So, with all of that present, I wanted to touch on something a little different in this game since it's so focused on narrators. FNAF 4 was the first in the series with no vocal narrator. Before that, Scott Cawthon himself was reading voice clips over the phone in every game. But in Sister Location, you have 2 new AI narrators who guide you through the game, telling you your next tasks and how to perform them. And perhaps their literal narration experiences some glitches here and there, but a more postmodern way to intensify this narration is to add narrative dissonance, where what is being narrated does not match what is happening in the story. There's some great exchanges where the hand unit narrator will have you check for the animatronic circus baby using a light, and even though she isn't on her stage, the narrator believes she is, and events continue. Rather than a specific sound, it's language this time that makes you aware that things aren't as they seem, and thus the general arc of the game gets more intense. There's later a moment where Circus Baby will start talking to you, and she will say things in direct conflict with the previous narrator's instructions. Again, when the game raises more and more unconfirmable questions this way, the whole experience becomes more intense.
Trust issues,
This game was also significant in the series for having an original soundtrack, rather than using stock music. And the game's composer, Leon Riskin, worked some narrative dissonance into the music. Most of the time you spend playing has no music, and some of the most dramatic or plot-heavy moments will play some deep, moody themes. But the endpoints of each night are announced by contrastingly comedic little jingles, with cheery elevator music at the beginning, and a theme at the end of the night that sounds straight out of an 80s VHS.
The voice is in my head!
This game certainly flares its sense of humor when there's room for a break from intensity. But I find it fascinating that even this humor can raise more concerns than it satisfies. There's one great moment in the game where the literal sound of this dark comedy suddenly spikes the moment's intensity. You're quietly making your way through the Ballora Gallery, your ears are primed to the low noise floor, attentive for any distant music, when suddenly the hand unit narrator chimes in at full volume, telling you to hurry up. It's not a...
I remember watching Markiplier play this part, and then I got fucking jump scared.
Jump scare in the traditional sense, but it is a type of sound intensity that gets highlighted in the next FNAF title, FNAF Pizzeria Simulator, Player Noise. We can do this. So after you design your own pizzeria in this game, you have to survive in it, performing some menial maintenance tasks like ordering pizzeria supplies and printing posters, while any malicious animatronics inside track you down from the vents on either side of you. A lot of variables affect your ability to make it through this, but one thing's for sure, you are loud when you're trying to be quiet.
What?
It's kind of flipping the script of FNAF 4. Now, in addition to listening out for the once again minuscule sounds and voice clips that alert you to nearby animatronics, you have to do tasks like printing on the world's noisiest printer and keep your office cool using a droning fan. Or maybe you had your pizzeria sponsored by a third-party company and their ad blares on your computer all of a sudden. Those sounds attract animatronics and make it more difficult to hear the sounds you're really wary for. And even worse, there isn't a clock-out time. You can only leave when all of these boisterous tasks are complete.
It's like when, you know when, like, the sound that you make in the morning, like you're opening a cabinet from like your kitchen, it doesn't sound loud, but at night, somehow everything is like 10 times louder. I don't know why. Maybe at nighttime there's the noise get like the noise of everything gets lower or something. But like whenever I open a fridge door in the morning, it doesn't make a sound at all. At night, like what the fuck? Like yeah, popping a soda can as well. I like in the morning go okay. At night, what the fuck?
So this game especially feels like flirting with...
Especially when I try to like have like a small drink before bed. Fucking without like waking up my uncle and auntie. Fucking at night. Yep, I'm cooked. I'm cooked.
Death. It's further exploiting how we perceive things when we're instructed to stay quiet. Every noise against that quiet state is intensified, especially when those noises are our fault, that we can trace to ourselves. So even a sound that might not usually be that intense, like appliances humming, starts to become a stressor in this context.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the thing about sound intensity. It depends heavily on context, on how much our minds were previously attuned or instructed to perceive sounds, and how much we know about the source and the meaning of the sound. But these were some of the ways the FNAF series flavored its gameplay to make less complex scenarios still stressful, and perhaps to make jump scares feel like they top off a tense buildup rather than coming out of nowhere. And I have no doubt the FNAF devs and the growing community are not done with cooking up these intense experiences.
The growing community.
But one last thing to note. There was a point, starting at FNAF 4, where the games approached relying on these quiet sound cues to progress.
Oh!
It's plausible to make it through the base games
It's the
without listening
Springtrap
to sound
thing,
cues,
right?
but some of the late game challenges, especially the custom night in FNAF's sister location, become essentially impossible, or at least left very well up to luck, without attentive listening.
I think they wanted help. Oh no! They're just featuring the original ones, like right here. They said it right here. I think they kind of missed the Springtrap one. You know the Springtrap one in FNAF 4? The Springtrap puppet one? I think they kind of missed it.
And that's a problem if you don't have access to sound, such as people who are deaf or hard of hearing, or even just people without a speaker or headphones set up. It's just worth noting that when working on a horror game with an achievable win condition, it behooves us to make sure it can be accomplished without the sound, just as FNAF 4 can be completed without the visuals. And I think that's everything.
I think so.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say.
No,
done. Closing time. I'm safe. Oh, I hope this video gave you some ideas about ways that sound intensity can work to your advantage if you make games, or to your horror if you're placed in the middle of them. Oh, I'd like to thank my friends Wolfgang and
This is a very good video, man. Holy
the
shit.
I'd
The
also like to
animations
thank my
and the
patrons on
visuals
Patreon
here is really
who help
good.
make my videos a more sustainable process.
It's really good.
If
I
you'd
really
to
like
support
it.
my work directly
The
and get perks
the
like your
animations and
credit
the
here, seeing
the pictures
videos
and stuff.
early,
It's very
a vote
easy
on
to
what
like
music I arrange,
understand.
and more
I like it.
behind-the-scenes content.
Very funny.
You can
Very
visit my
interesting.
Patreon link in